What's up, beautiful Earthlings? Welcome back to the channel today. I am White311H. Together, we'll be reacting to some videos that might make you change the way you think, or maybe just a little bit. Some of these clips are strange, some unsettling, but they all invite us to pause and reflect. But before that, we must always start with what really matters the most, the Word of God. Child of God, from the book of wisdom, 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 18. This is what it says. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. For what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Let's say a quick prayer before we dive in. Thank you, wonderful Father, for the day. Thank you for the words from the book of wisdom. Thank you for your breath in us, Father. Today we come before you together with your child here, today's viewer, in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, Father. Dear Lord, we pray that you may guide us through this video. Help us, Father, to have strength in our hearts and spread love and peace to the whole world, Father, together with your beautiful child here. And through this video, may you transform this viewer's life, fill them with your presence, Father. Intervene in their lives, dear Lord, and guide them in your path at all times, Father. And as we reach the end, dear Lord, we shall be grateful and thank you, Father, for that. In your holy name, Jesus Christ, do pray, trusting and believing. Amen. Let's dive in. Good vibes, my friends.
Have you guys heard about the Black Knight satellite? Because I stumbled down this rabbit hole recently, and I'll just say the deeper I got, the crazier it got. Apparently, there's this ancient alien satellite that's been orbiting Earth for over 13,000 years. And sources claim that it's not just an alien satellite, but a galactic library holding the secrets of the entire universe. And Nikola Tesla was the first to discover it back in the 1800s. Now, there are also photos from a NASA mission in 1998, and I'm going to put the photos at the end of this, so take what you will, leave what you don't want. But this mysterious object was orbiting the International Space Station, and it shows videos of this, so I'll let you know. But here's where the rabbit hole actually grabbed my attention. Multiple inside sources claim that the satellite emits a beam of radiation type light that unlocks a dormant DNA in those who witness it. Now, the people who have claimed to have seen it describe it as a dark, angular shaped object with hieroglyphic-like markings on it, and it's only visible at night, obviously. But here's also something that grabbed my attention. The deeper that I went in this rabbit hole, the more I realized that it's still being talked about in scientific communities, conspiracy communities. And it just made me think, what if it's just waiting for this perfect moment to reveal itself and show us everything? But what do you think? Have you heard about the Black Knight satellite? Because that rabbit hole is so fun. Go down it. Take what you will, leave what you won't. And remember, we're here to talk about things for conversation, learning, and entertainment purposes only. But let me know, have you heard about the Black Knight satellite?
All right, so this is some of the new counter drone nets that Russia and Ukraine are putting up, obviously to try to stop drone attacks against a single road where you're moving in and out of a area of operations. Of course, there's a challenge here because the top is pretty open and the drone pilots are getting good enough. Well, check this out. All right, so this is a Russian drone. You can see kind of not nets, but wires strung up here that do serve some protection. But those drone pilots, look at that, straight underneath. Those guys in the truck, they know what's up. It's time to get out of Dodge. So the drone pilots are getting very, very good. So some modifications have been made to these nets. Check this out. I mean, obviously the next evolution there is you just cover the whole thing, right? You get a little rooftop. This type of netting is enough to stop drones or drone drop grenades, anything like that. Loiter munitions, not so much. Probably be able to make it through this depending what the material is. Nonetheless, a couple challenges here. First off, you can't do this everywhere, right? There's going to be limited locations where you actually have the material and the facilities to be able to put this up. Also, when you're building it, you got to think enemy forces are watching this and like, oh, we don't want them doing that. Like the guy running the wire, in, what is that? Enemy at the Gates, right? Don't want the enemy running wire. You can see this area here still yet to be built.
Peonies are a long-term investment. You plant them with one of these. It's a tuber. But when they get moved, they don't like it very much, and they won't do a lot in the first year. So likely, this one's going to flower. First year, sleep. Second year, creep. Third year, leap is what they say. But over time, this tuber's going to get bigger. This one's been down 15 years now. Probably nearly 2 foot wide. It's got 10 or 15 stems on it. They'll come back every year and repay you with your investment.
Never put your spouse's name on these 3 things. I've seen this mistake ruin lives after divorce. If you came into the marriage with a house, there's no reason to add your spouse to the title of that house. Second, investment accounts. If you came to the marriage with an asset and an investment account, there is no reason to add your spouse to that account. Your advisor or your spouse may say it's for estate planning purposes. What if you pass away? Well, there's other ways to handle that. You can do that through a will or a transfer on death directive. If you came to the marriage owning a business, you should not put your spouse's name on the title to that business, even for convenience. Once you change that, you've changed the nature of that property.
Did you know that there's a really interesting reason why people in the past tend to look a lot older than we do today? And some of the best example of this happens when we take a look at the television as well as movies from the past. And this screenshot behind me shows the age of the Cheers cast, which all tends to be in the 30s. And this is so different from a show like Bridgerton, where most of the cast are actually in their late 20s or early 30s. And it turns out that much of this is quote-unquote simply an illusion. Basically, whenever we see people wearing outdated style, we often associate them with the older generation. And as you can see behind me, when we change her hairstyle as well as makeup, she looks 20 to 30 years younger. And even for a show like Friends that is only roughly 2 decades old, many of these individuals look a lot older than they should be. When we shift them to a modern style, they don't look like they age very much at all. And apart from this, of course, there's also a much stronger interest on looking younger much longer. And as technology as well as medicine gets better, it's also much easier to hide cues of aging. For example, items like minoxidil can help men keep their hair much longer, making them look much more youthful. In addition to this, there's also Botox as well as other procedures that can make a person look 10 to 20 years younger. People also tend to be much leaner since we care much more about what we eat and as well as how much we exercise. And all these things makes us look much younger than we actually are.
This is not a water world. Miller's Planet in Interstellar is a rocky world covered in an ocean, but it is not a water world. We know there's a surface. They're walking on it. They're knee deep in water, but they're walking on rocks. This is not what astronomers mean when they say water world. With the recent announcement suggesting possible signs of life around the water world, K218b, you're probably picturing vast Earth-like oceans, which seems titillating, but let me untitillate you just a little bit. First of all, we don't know if it's really a water world or not. It's very hard to determine, but a true water world is not going to have a surface. It's going to have more water. You're going to go deeper and deeper, more and more water. The pressure is going to increase. There's probably rocks and iron at the core, but again, it is not a surface in the way that you're thinking of it. Here's the thing, at immense depths, water is not even a liquid anymore. It transitions to a solid. So as you go deeper and deeper and deeper in that ocean, the water turns into hot ice with increasing temperature. So the anatomy of a water world probably looks something like this. There's some thinner hydrogen helium gas envelope on the outside. There's this layer of steam, hot H2O. There's probably a decent layer of liquid water underneath all of this, and that is sitting on top of a layer of solid hot ice. All of this is water. The steam, the liquid, and the solid. And this anatomy actually poses serious issues and complications for life as we know it. For the longest time, one of the leading theories for how life originated on Earth is in these shallow tide pools, where the tide would come in, it would bring in organic nutrients from the ocean, and then it would leave, it would deposit them there. And as far as we know, complex molecules like DNA, which is absolutely required for life as we know it, for Earth-based life, required these wet-dry cycles that you would get in these tide pool areas. It gets wet when the tide comes in, it dries when the tide goes out. on a true water world, this cannot happen. You hear somebody say that water worlds are potentially habitable, potentially hospitable. You really have to take it with the world's biggest grain of salt because we don't know enough about them. And what we do know about life on Earth and how it may have risen, which of course we don't know that either, it really doesn't align with what we think that we know about water worlds. These environments are very different. You're wrong if you're thinking about big Earth with a big ocean. That is not what this is like at all whatsoever.
Okay, this is unreal. This is the flying car in China. Now, it's fully electric. This is a fully electric flying car. It gets you about 30 minutes of airtime, which, unless you're flying to a different country, is plenty of airtime. And this is not a concept. Legitimate video of these guys, the company's called Xpeng, flying it around in mainland China, where billions of people live. Now, they have thousands of orders before production, which is meant to begin in 2026. So in 12 months in China, they're going to be selling flying cars commercially, which is insane. So on the ground, it's a truck or a van. There's a couple variations, and then it turns into a flyer. So 30 minutes in the air, fully charged, or about 1,000 kilometers on the ground, if you just want to drive it around like a loser. But this is going to be insane.
Pete Davidson's reportedly spent over $200,000 to have his tattoos removed. Tattoo removal requires special lasers to help break up that ink into smaller pieces so that your immune system can carry it out of the skin. If you have tattoos with multiple colors, you need a different laser wavelength for each color. So it can be an intense process, it can be very painful, and it takes multiple sessions because every time you do it, it gets rid of some of the ink, but not all. And even when you're all done with laser tattoo removal, you can have some ghosting or see the outline of that tattoo. So if you're considering getting a tattoo, I recommend that you plan it out and know exactly what you want and then wait 6 to 12 months before you move forward. If you still want it at that point, make sure that you get it at a reputable place who does great work. And if you decide that you don't want it anymore, just know it's going to be painful and it's going to be expensive to get it removed.
Did they ask you to cut your hair?
They did. And I told them this, and I was like, every dark-skinned model has to have short hair. And
why?
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with the fact that they have to style it.
Would you have loved to keep your hair?
Yes.
Approximately 63% of Black women models are bald versus 1.25% of white women models. Yikes. At what point do you call this an orchestration and not an oversight? At what point do you call it what it is? Racism.
I have a serious question. What is happening with all of these celebrities? I understand people age, people change their looks, they mature, but the photos that I'm about to show you, take Miley Cyrus for example. These are recent photos of Miley Cyrus. And then there's recent photos of Miley Cyrus. What happened to Miley Cyrus? Some will say it's hair, some will say it's makeup. Something is definitely off looking with Miley Cyrus right now. Here's a side-by-side comparison of the then and now. Take a look at the facial structure. Look at the facial structure up there. Did we miss something? Was there some type of plastic surgery done? Or did she just lean up to a point where she totally went from that nose to that nose? These images of her were posted like maybe a year or two ago. You can see that she's totally changed. Her fans have reacted the same way after seeing videos and photos of her walking around not looking like the same person. So again, I ask you, what are your thoughts on what's happening in Hollywood? How they transform from this to that? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and as always, I'd love to hear from you.
Yo, man, well, this is strange. Honestly, myself, I think she looked more pretty before what happened to her face. What about you? What is going on there in English dance? Good vibe sauce. We've seen other people getting younger instead of older. What's really going on in the world, children of God? Even more strange thing is what's going on with the weather stuff. Like what the good vibes guy was telling us there in some episodes about water pools and lakes and how they are all affected by rains. It's crazy stuff, my friends, you see, but not as unbelievable as what's going on down in Russia there. Good vibe source. You mean humans now have to create roads with all that takes up all that cost just to protect themselves from other humans? This is all madness. We can all solve these things by being united as the whole human race. You see, being one people full of love, loving your neighbor the way you love yourself. You see, there wouldn't even be no need of all this bombing and people having to use guns to settle disputes. That's insane, unbelievable, my friends. You see, anyway, humans are full of good vibes if given a chance to show themselves. Let's keep on watching these videos, and I hope you leave your perspectives down below. Peace and love to you, child of God.
This is a question for the guys. Have you ever seen a girl and your initial reaction was, holy shit, those are some really nice eyelashes? I'm gonna say no. I'm not a guy, but I will confidently say 10 toes down that no guy is like, wow, did you see that girl's lash extensions? Did you see those girls' lashes? Man, I want to get her number. Am I wrong? Do you guys say these things? Do you guys think these things? Or did girls just get on this like eyelash extension thing? And not to hate on eyelash extensions, I used to get them. I'll do the little myself ones from time to time, but how did this epidemic around lashes start? Like, this didn't used to be a thing. So now you could freaking hang a girl upside down and sweep the floors with some of these lashes. They look like straight up pterodactyls. But I want to know, are there actually guys that appreciate the lashes, or do they really not give two shits? Let me know. Let's talk about it.
So, my friends, humans are incredible. In this case, I'm a little bit confused. I'm not even sure whether the eyelashes are these ones here or these ones. Which ones is she talking about? Anyway, none of those things really matters on the beauty of a person. What really matters is the nature of that person's heart. Whether they are able to love, be forgiving, they are honest people, or the virtues of a good source. The rest are just additions, and God made us uniquely and perfectly, all of us. Let's keep on watching, and to the guys watching, please tell us what you think about this issue. Let's continue.
Pinky, wanna go outside? Good boy, Pinky. Oh, are you okay, Pinky? What's wrong, buddy? Look at me. What's wrong with your eye? Oh, you wanna go outside? You wanna go outside and play? Oh, now you're fine. Oh, now you're hurt again. Oh, no. Can you see it?
AI memory is bordering on deceptive design. It makes us think the systems have memory, and that makes us think they are like us, but they're not. When you're chatting with an AI system, it is not learning anything new. The model doesn't change. But Morten, you'll say, it does remember and it does learn. It really doesn't, but you have every reason to think it does. Here's what's actually happening. Every time you prompt a language model and it responds, it has no ability to recollect past conversations or even the past exchange within your current conversation. Every prompt response pair is isolated from every other prompt response pair. That makes having a conversation with AI impossible. So we build simulated memory by feeding back the entire conversation every time you make a new prompt. So when I prompt, hi, my name is Morten, the AI responds, hello, and then I say, what's my name? The AI is sent, hi, my name is Morten, hello, what's my name? And as you continue the conversation, that document grows and grows and grows. It's not memory, it's the AI reading the entire conversation every time. So how then does it remember things from previous conversations? The user interface stores that information and passes it in with every exchange. When you understand this, a lot of things start making sense. For example, that you can change models in the middle of a conversation and the conversation continues. You're effectively swapping out the brain, but the memory is still there because it's not memory. And it explains why AI gets so much better when you plug it into documents or the internet. The system itself doesn't have memory or knowledge, but you can feed in information that it can then riff on. Now go clear your ChatGPT memory, because I guarantee there's a bunch of nonsense in there.
Oh, that is the best arrow so far.
So far? You say that as though somebody's gonna come out and do better than that. Who is she up against? Hawkeye? Like, what are you talking about? She hit the center of the middle of the bullseye. I wasn't aware you could get more accurate than that. Like, what are we talking about?
I don't think you could survive a week in the Amazon River, because I don't think you stand a chance against a lot of the stuff that lives down there. We won't even mention caimans, jaguars, anacondas, river dolphins, river otters. We'll only talk about the fish. Let's start off with the red-bellied piranha, arguably the most recognizable Amazonian species. Now, these guys can bite steel wire in half, so you can only imagine what they do to your finger. But wait! I want you to meet their bigger, badder, more aggressive cousin, the black piranha. Now, not only is this the biggest piranha species in the world, but it has one of the strongest bite to size ratios of any animal on the planet. It's 3 times more than an alligator. But there's more. This is called a payara. It's also called a vampire fish. It's pretty clear to see why. Now, these guys use those giant bottom fangs of theirs to puncture or snag other fish. Now, apparently they're not dangerous to humans, but I don't want to take any chances. Or, what about the electric eel, which can shock you with 800 volts of electricity, or 1 amp, which now, you might say, oh, 1 amp isn't a lot, until you realize that it takes 1/10 of that to kill a person. And they grow over 8 feet long. But wait, there's more! How would you like to get stung by a stingray with a barbed spine that'll rip your flesh out? Cause those live in the Amazon River too. Or what about get attacked by a bull shark? Cause they live in the Amazon River too. Or, what about the various different kinds of catfish that vary in sizes, like this one, the Paraiba, which can grow really big, enough to swallow a person, and according to local legends, they have! Or what about this parasite, the kangaroo, which I'm not gonna go into much detail, but just know, if you pee in a river, these guys can swim up that pee, get stuck in your urethra, and because they have barbed spines, they can only be taken out by surgery. Now, apparently this is a myth, but I'm not taking any chances with this! And don't even get me started on the pacu, because they're called nutcrackers. You wanna know why? Give me a second. Those teeth, they will crack your nuts!
No nudity, no trains. You might be familiar with these iconic Cannes looks, but this year the film festival has set out some rules on the red carpet. One says, for decency reasons, nudity is prohibited on the red carpet as well as in any other part of the festival. What's unclear though is what that means for looks which involve sheer or mesh elements. Another one bans voluminous outfits or anything with a large train, essentially anything that will stop the flow of traffic on the red carpet or something that might impede people from getting into their seats inside the theatres. And the festival says if you don't respect the rules, you might not make it onto the red carpet.
One of the weirdest coincidences I've ever heard of is in this photo right here. The picture was taken at Disney World back in the year 1980. The little girl on the far right, her name is Donna. She was 5 at the time. 22 years after this photo was taken, she was flipping through her old family photo album with her fiance, a man who she had met as an adult. And when they get to this picture, he stops and looks closely and says, "That's me." To which she was probably like, "But that's you there?" He says, "No, behind you in the stroller." 15 years before this couple would meet, her fiance's dad just happened to pass by at the exact moment they snapped this photo, with her fiance in the stroller. And to prove it, he went and got his own family photos from this vacation, including pictures of his dad wearing that shirt. And please understand, it's not like all these people lived around Orlando and went to Disney World every weekend. She had traveled there from New York, he had come there from Canada. And I find this fascinating because I suspect that this actually happens all the time, that a lot of the people who you've met as an adult, even if you grew up thousands of miles apart, that at some point you stood in line at the same gas station on a road trip or sat next to each other on a flight. And as this generation that has photographed every moment of their lives grows up, in the future they'll probably have software that can just scan the background and find out where they met or almost met 20 years earlier.
What the fuck is that? Look like some kind of a tent. What the hell? Ain't no way that tent. Ain't no way. Get out, Levi!
Things to avoid in a kitchen if you're designing it, because the people designing it, the fitters and the builders and all that, they see their creations when they're new and they look amazing. They don't see them 3 or 4 years down the line. And some of these kitchens, I think, they can cost £20,000, £30,000, £40,000. So In order, do not let anybody put a piece of chipwood or a piece of MDF on the floor like that without sealing the end thoroughly before it goes in with something like water seal. Don't just let them put a bead round it, because it will blow. 100% that thing will blow. End of story. Do not have a flooring that you cannot use hot soapy water on. I have heard kitchen fitters say, "Oh no, you can't get it wet. Just run a dry duster over it." No, sorry. Again, a kitchen floor needs to be washed. Hot soapy water. Things have to be able to get wet. Do not have painted cabinets. Painted cabinets do not last. They chip and they look sordid and they look dirty. Better than that, have a vinyl. If you've got old cabinets that need restoring, think about one of these companies that will come and revinyl your kitchen. If you can't have that and you want natural wood, use Danish oil. Honestly, I've got several kitchens. A lot of them are polyurethane. Oh, that'll last years, love. Problem is, the polyurethane does chip, and then water gets under and it all starts to flake off. I've got one kitchen I deal with. It's well over 30 years old. It is covered in Danish oil, and every couple of years I go through the whole kitchen with white spirit and wire wool. I clean down all the doors with that. I wipe them off, and then I re-Danish oil them. Anywhere that's got, I use a bit of sandpaper. I thin the oil so it goes into the wood. 30 years later, it still looks absolutely fine. Anything fiddly, these little twiddly bits of cast iron. It's a kitchen. How are you going to clean that? Are you really going to spend at least an hour a month with a little tiny brush going in your little bit of twiddly cast iron on all your handles that will get cobwebby and greasy and dirty in the middle? Brick, natural stone finishes on walls. What are you asking for? It's going to be covered in dust and grease and you can't clean it. Marble. Do not put marble in a kitchen or in a bathroom. It is soft. It is one step up from chalk. You cannot keep it clean. Corian is brilliant, and it's got a little, because it's not really hard like quartz, it's got a bit of shock absorption. So in fact, you won't break all your plates and glasses if you're not used to it. If you're going to get some kind of natural finish, use that quartz stuff that's reconstituted stone. That is a lot easier. Don't get natural stone. Don't care. It's really hard to clean, and it looks manky after a few years if you don't really look after it. And if you've got to treat it like a gentle bait, why have you got a kitchen? Kitchens should be robust. You should be able to clean them. You should be able to use scouring powders on them. You should be able to use all sorts of that, because they are a working environment. They need to be scrubbed vigorously. They need to be kept clean. That involves water, abrasives, soap, heat. Anything delicate and too fiddly, go away. Whatever you've got, ask a cleaner to look at the design and pick holes in it, and they'll tell you.